Hello people, DarthMaskar here, and this is, well, something different. This is called the Dueling Network. This is not going to be a Give It a Try or a DarthMaskar and Friends, because I'm not just trying this. I've had this for quite some time now. It's actually really nice. It's basically a site where you can make your own Yu-Gi-Oh decks and test them. You don't actually have to have the cards in real life. So I'm just going to go through. I have 4 decks, and well, technically I have 5 in here, but this deck is not one that I have in real life, so I'm just going to get rid of that one right now. Delete. Alright, these are 4 decks that I have in real life, and I might just want some, what's it called? Feedback on them. Maybe some way I could improve them. This is the main deck that I use. This is my Infernity deck. Infernities were top tier a couple years ago, but then they dropped down because of all the new strong decks or whatever. They have their moments where they are absolutely amazing, and their moments where they are just absolutely terrible. But, yep, that goes along with every deck. But, yeah, here we go. I have 1 Armageddon Knight, pretty obvious. Summon, send a Dark to the grave. Dark Grepher is more interesting, and it's understandable that he is more than 3 times the worth of Armageddon Knight. He's 1700 attack, 600 defense. I can't use his first effect in this deck because I don't have a level 5 or higher Dark monster. But once per turn, I can discard a Dark to send a Dark to from the deck to the grave. That's really nice because not only does it help get rid of the monsters in my hand, but it also gets the monsters I need into the grave. And this deck is all about recycling the graveyard over and over again. 1 second. Alright. And I have one of the biggest engines of the deck, 3 Infernity Archfiends. Archfiend, if I have no cards in my hand and I draw it, like say I have no cards in my hand and then I go to my draw phase and draw it, I can automatically special summon it during my draw phase. And if he's special summoned in any way, I can search my deck for any Infernity card and add it to my hand. Now this is awesome. It can either add any of my Infernity monsters, it can add Infernity Launcher, and Infernity Barrier, Inferno, any of it. They can just add them straight to my hand. You need to make sure you have a way to get that card out of your hand, though, otherwise it's going to be really bad, because since it adds a card to your hand, it means that it might ruin the Infernity strategy, because Infernities are based all around having no cards in your hand. Now I use 2 Infernity Avengers, and if it's destroyed if any monster you control besides this one is destroyed in battle, you can special summon this one from your grave, and he becomes the level of destroyed monster. This is one of the main tuners that I use in the deck. I always bring this one back to help bring out the big synchro monsters, because also Infernities are based around synchro spam. So yeah, the other tuner I use in the deck is Infernity Beetle, 2-star tuner. If I have no cards in my hand, I can tribute it in order to special summon 2 more from my deck. Well, up to 2. So not only can it get me monsters to synchro summon, because the 2 ways that I synchro summon are with Archfiend or any 4-star, a 3-star like Necromancer and then Avenger, or I take any 4-star and use 2 Beetles. It automatically will get me 2 tuners in the grave. It's really bad to get 2 of these in the hand, but sometimes it happens. What can you do? I also use Infernity. Oh my god, I'm gonna have to look at this later. Infernity Mirage. Now Mirage is a really awesome monster for this deck. 1-star. It can't be special summoned from the grave though, which kind of sucks. But if I have no cards in my hand, I can tribute it in order to special summon 2 Infernities from my grave, which is really nice because I could use it to bring back 2 Archfiends, or use it to bring back Necro and Archfiend. Then I automatically get Archfiend's effect. And one of the best Infernities in this deck, this one, Infernity Necromancer, 0 attack, 2000 defense, 3-star. While it's normal summon, switch to defense, and once per turn, I can special summon an Infernity. If I have no cards in my hand, I can do the second effect. Special summon any Infernity monster from your grave. Bring back any of these guys, except for Mirage, since he can't be special summoned. Bring back an Archfiend, use Archfiend's effect. Beetle, get a 5-star sync. Avenger, if we already have Archfiend or 4-star, just awesome. I use a Stygian Street Patrol, and his first effect is okay, but that's not the real reason I have him in the deck. You can banish him from your grave, and it lets you special summon a Fiend monster from your hand with 2000 attack or less. So if you have 2 monsters in your hand, you can normal summon one and then banish the Street Patrol to get rid of the other one. And if it's an Archfiend that you didn't get because you drew him and had no cards in your hand, boom, there you go, you got his effect. As long as it gets you with no cards. Now, another tuner I use in the deck is Plague Spreader. Plague Spreader is awesome for this deck. Not only is it a 2-star tuner, not only is it a dark tuner, but due to its effect, you can return one card from your hand to the top of your deck to special summon it from your grave. Which means not only can you get it out easily, but it helps you get rid of your hand. Which means it helps the Infinities very, very well. So that's it for the monsters. To go into the spell cards. Dark Hole, staple. Book of Moon, pretty nice card. Should be a staple. Foolish Burial, that's pretty much a must for this deck. Send any monster from the deck to the grave. You can either send one of the Infinities you need, or send Street Patrol or Plague Spreader. Pretty awesome. Zero Max. This is a really nice card. It's like a Monster Reborn for Infinities. If you have no cards in your hand, special summon one Infinity from your grave. And not only that, but it destroys all other monsters that are on the field that have less attack points than the monster brought back. You can't attack the turn you do it, though. Well, you can't even conduct your battle phase. But you could, if you don't want to destroy anything, you could bring back a Necromancer or something like that. Or if you're crazy, you can even bring out the Doom Dragon and blow everything up. Now, the best card in this deck, I would say, well, one of the best cards, is Infinity Launcher. This card is the reason it was top tier, because back in the day, this card was at 3, but since now it's at 1, it's not anymore, which kind of sucks, because I wish it was still at 3. This card would be amazing. Anyways, once per turn, you can send one Infernity monster from your hand to the grave, and that's the first effect. Now, and if you have no cards in your hand, you can send it to the grave to special summon up to 2 Infinities. So if you have one Infernity in your hand, you already normal summoned or whatever, send that monster to the grave, and then send Infernity Launcher to the grave to bring back 2 Infinities. Just awesome. Dark Eruption. I like this. I decided to throw in this card. Thought it would be pretty nice. Dark Eruption. Grab a 15 or less dark from your grave and add it to your hand. I thought this was pretty nice. Say if you have like no cards in your hand or whatever, you play this. Get back a Necromancer, get back a Mirage, mainly. Mirage can't, since Mirage can't be special summoned, Dark Eruption is really the only way to get him back. Which I think is nice, because he's a free 2 Infernity. Monster Reborn staple, 2 MSTs, staples, 1 for 1. Now this is a good card. Remember, he can't be special summoned from the grave, so a really easy way to get him out, I could either use this. Well, first, 1 for 1. You send a monster from your hand to the grave to special summon a level 1 monster from your hand or deck. So you could use it to toss, I don't know, toss a tuner. Or toss Street Patrol or Plague Spreader. Toss them, either get out an Avenger for a free tuner, synchro summon, or use it to bring out a Mirage from your deck. Then use the Mirage to get out 2 more Infinities. Pretty awesome. And then I use Reinforcement of the Army just so I can get out Armageddon Knight and Dark Grepher, since they're the only 2 warriors in my deck. That's it for spell cards. Now for traps. Phantom Hand. Now this card is really good for Infinities. I don't get it out that often, but if I do get it out, it's really good. If I control an Infernity, you banish your entire hand face down until your next standby phase. That way, if you have a bunch of cards that you can't get rid of from your hand, you just banish them until your next standby phase. So then you get all your Infinities effects. And then when it comes to your next turn, during your draw phase, you still have no cards in your hand. Which means, if you draw out into Archfiend, you can special summon him and do all of his effects. And then during your standby phase, you get your hand back. Then you could just be like, oh, banish it again. So it's really, really nice. Infernity Barrier, one of the best cards that the Infinities have. I used to have this card at 3, but it became too cumbersome because you can only use it if you have no cards in your hand and if you have an attack position Infernity. It's basically the Solemn Judgment of Infinities. It can't negate a summon, but it can negate any spell, trap, or monster effect without having to pay life points at all. As I said, all you need to do is have no cards in your hand and have an attack position Infernity. And that right there is the reason I don't use 3. I still leave it at 1, and I think it works just fine. 3 Call the Haunted, since the deck revolves around special summoning from the grave. This card is pretty much a must. Compulse, I throw in there just for some defense, and it does a really quick, way to get rid of monsters. Because destruction can be blocked a lot, and I don't have enough dimensional prisons or whatever. So I think Compulse is a good card. I run 1 Solemn Judgment, pretty good reason to use this card because it's awesome. Infernity Break. I run one of this, and if you have no cards in your hand, banish an Infernity card from your grave to destroy a card on the field. This is really good if you have, like, say, you have Launcher in your grave. You can't get Launcher. My deck cannot get Launcher back, so I can just banish that. If I used Barrier already, I can banish that. If I used a Mirage already, since he can't be special summoned from the grave, I can just banish one of him, and I can blow up any card in the field. I think that's nice. Scrap Iron Scarecrow. Not really sure why I have this in there. It's just more defense. Probably could throw in another break or something. I just need to decide about that. Infernity Inferno. This is a good card. Discard up to 2 cards from your hand, sends the same number of Infernities from your deck to the grave. This is a really nice card, because it not only gets rid of your hand, but it puts your key Infernities into the graveyard. And then for defense, I use Starlight Road. I chose to use Starlight Road instead of A Huge Revolution is Over, just because that it lets me get out Stardust Dragon. Since the deck is based around getting out big beefy Synchro monsters, I figured why not be able to bring out Stardust Dragon. It'd probably be smarter to use A Huge Revolution is Over, but I think it's more of a plus using getting out a Stardust Dragon than getting than just banishing the target. And now for my extra deck, I have 15 Synchro monsters, as it shows. Pretty basic levels. I have 2 level 5s, Magical Android, the main one I use, and Scarred Warrior. I don't have Ally of Justice Catastor, nor am I going to get it in here because I don't have it in real life, and I'm trying to only emulate what I have in real life. I have Bryonic, which is an awesome card for this deck, helps get rid of the hand, and I have Iron Chain Dragon. Again, there's probably a better 6-star Synchro monster I could be using, but this is all I have. I have 2 Black Rose Dragons for my level 7, just in case. And for my 8, I have tons of level 8s. I have a Thought Ruler Archfiend, just awesome monster. I have a Scrap Dragon. That's a really nice card. A Stardust, obviously I have a Stardust Dragon. And I have a Red Dragon Archfiend. And now for the main 4 Synchro monsters that I use. These are the ones that I bring out, usually with my Infernities. I bring out Void Ogre Dragon and Infernity Doom Dragon. Now, Void Ogre Dragon, he's a newer monster that came out. He's dark. All he requires is a Dark Tuner, and then just anything else. 3,000 attack, 3,000 defense. Once per turn, during either player's turn, if you have no cards in your hand, you can negate 1 spell or trap. So he's kind of like a stronger version of 6 Samurai Shien, where you can just negate one spell or trap per turn, and you can only do it if you have no cards in your hand. So it goes very well with Infernities. And now for their main Synchro monster, Infernity Doom Dragon. Infernity Doom Dragon, same thing. Dark Tuner, 1 more non, 3,000 attack, 2,400 defense. And if I have its effect is awesome. If you have no cards in your hand, once per turn, you can just blow up a monster. And if it's face up, you inflict damage equal to half its attack points. If it's face down, it just does no damage. But then it can't attack the turn it does that. And then my last monster, it's just for lulz, and sometimes it's useful. It's Red Nova Dragon. Use it with Red Dragon Archfiend and 2 tuners. Now, the only way I can bring this out in my deck is by using Red Dragon Archfiend and 2 Infernity Beetles. This card's really nice because it can't be destroyed, and if your opponent declares an attack, you can banish it to negate the attack. He'll come back at the end phase. It also gains 500 attack for every tuner in the grave, so if I get all 5 of my tuners in the grave, I can get 6,000 attack points, up to 6,000 attack points, even more if Plague Spreader's in there. 6,500 that can't be destroyed by anything. Well, anything my opponent does. But yeah, that's my Infernity deck. Feel free to comment on it. And yeah, now for my second deck. This is the second deck that I made out of the 4. This is my Final Countdown deck. Now, Final Countdown is just such a lulzy card. This deck is just a troll deck, and it's actually really good at what it does. Just draw into Final Countdown, keep drawing and defending until Final Countdown runs out. It's the only win condition of the deck, and yeah, it's just awesome. Now, I have this ordered spell, trap, and monster, but I'm going to go through the monsters first. I run 3 Battle Faders, pretty obvious. Block a direct attack in the battle phase, and it special summons itself. Pretty nice. Swift Scarecrow, same thing as Battle Fader, except instead of being special summoned, you discard it from your hand, which I think is Swift Scarecrow is better than Battle Fader, because if your opponent does something to negate its special summon, I'm not sure if you negate his summon, yeah, special summon this card and the battle phase. I'm not sure if you negate Battle Fader's summon, I'm not sure if that negates his other effect. So Swift Scarecrow is the safer way to do it. Plus, after he has his effect, he's sent to the grave, unlike Battle Fader, who is banished after he does his ability. 2 Mystic Pipers. Mystic Piper is an amazing card for this. In general, I even heard there's like one of the really powerful top tier decks called which revolves around Mystic Piper. I'm not going to do that because I don't like using top tier decks of today because they're just boring. Yeah, Mystic Piper, tribute it from your field to draw 1 card. Well, draw and reveal it. If it's a level 1 monster, you draw 1 more card, and you can only do this effect once per turn. Since my entire deck is filled with 1-star level 1 monsters, if I draw a monster, I automatically draw again, which is nice. Now, Kinkabyo. Kinkabyo is an awesome card for this deck. It's a spirit monster. When it's normal summoned or flip face up, you special summon a level 1 monster from your graveyard, so you use it in combo with Mystic Piper. Summon Kinkabyo, bring back Mystic Piper, then you get Mystic Piper's effect, draw more, and then use Kinkabyo's spirit effect to send it back to the hand at the end of the turn. Now, Golden Ladybug, he's just kind of there. I use him to try to regain life points if I've taken any damage at all. I always try to stay at least 2,000 life points behind my opponent, and I will explain that later. And Cyber Valley, just an awesome level 1 monster. 3 effects, targeted by an attack, banish him, draw a card in the battle phase. And another effect, banish him and a monster you control to draw 2 cards. And the third effect is the one I use the most. You banish him and 1 card from your hand to take 1 card in your graveyard and put it back on top of your deck. Now, this goes really good with cards like if I want to use 1 Day of Peace again, or if I run out of traps to protect myself, I'll grab a trap, or grab Swift Scarecrow or something, or Mystic Piper, or anything. Cyber Valley is just awesome. Now, I'll go for the spells. 3 Pot of Dualities, pretty obvious. Automatically draw a card out of 3, pretty awesome. Can't special summon, doesn't matter because I don't special summon during my turn unless I'm using Kinkabyo, and I will not do them at the same time. 1 Day of Peace, probably the most amazing card in this entire deck. Each player draws a card, and then neither player can take any damage until the end of your opponent's next turn, which is awesome, because that's an automatic 2 turns for Final Countdown, where your opponent cannot hurt you at all. And you get to draw a card, so it's double. It's like double awesome. The main card of the deck, Final Countdown. Final Countdown, you pay 2,000 life points. After 20 turns, you win the duel. So basically, it gets a counter every time you exchange between turns. So if you switch to your opponent, 1. They switch back to you, 2. And then it just keeps going back and forth until it reaches 20. So basically, each person has 10 turns before you win. So basically, the deck is just based around using this and then defending until you get this. Gold Sarcophagus. I used 1. I don't have any others, so I can't run any more. Just select and banish a card from my deck, and then after the second standby phase, it goes to my hand. Most of the time, I use this to get out 1 Day of Peace. Sometimes, if the deck really treats me badly, I have to use it to grab Final Countdown. Most of the time, I'm able to get Final Countdown within the first 2 turns. If I'm lucky, I'll get it in the first hand, which is awesome. Then I use Upstart Goblin, just awesome. Automatically draw a card. Your opponent gets 1,000, and it helps get my opponent ahead of me, which is what the deck requires. I need to be at least 2,000 life points behind my opponent. And then, Painful Return, which is an awesome card for this deck. Your opponent chooses a monster in your graveyard, and at the end phase, you add that monster to your hand, which is awesome because, say, you have a Swift Scarecrow, only Swift Scarecrow in your grave. They have to give you back Swift Scarecrow, and then then you can use it to defend. If you have Mystic Piper in your grave, that's awesome, they add it back to you. Cyber Valley usually doesn't end up in the grave. Battle Fader does not end up in the grave. Kinkabyo doesn't. Probably Golden Ladybug will, if I decide to not keep it. But yeah, most of the time it's used to grab Mystic Piper or Swift Scarecrow. And yeah, that's it for the spell cards. Now for the traps. I use 2 Wabakus. Wabaku's pretty awesome. You can't take battle damage, and your monsters can't be destroyed this turn. That's pretty awesome. I run 3 Reckless Greeds. Reckless Greed is an awesome card. You draw 2 cards, and you skip your 2 next draw phases. That's a bad part of the deck, and if you don't have enough draw power, it will kill the deck. But I have so many other cards that can draw 3 Upstart Goblins, 3 Pot of Dualities, 3 1 Day of Pieces, that it pretty much, and Mystic Piper, that it pretty much negates the need for, pretty much negates the bad part of it. And yeah, I use 3 Threatening Roars. This card is awesome. Your opponent can't declare an attack this turn. You can either declare it at the start of their battle phase, or right at the beginning of their turn when during their draw phase. You can activate this card. You can leave it face down. If they try to destroy it, you play it. It's just awesome. Thunder of Ruler. It's a lot more limited than Threatening Roar, but it basically does the same thing. You can only activate it during their standby phase, and your opponent can't conduct the battle phase the turn you activate the card. So basically, it's just like another Threatening Roar. They can't attack. Frozen Soul. This is the reason I need to stay at least 2,000 points behind my opponent. Frozen Soul. You can only activate it if your opponent is at least 2,000. If you are at least 2,000 life points lower than your opponent, it skips their next battle phase, which is awesome. It's just like a Thunder of Ruler or Threatening Roar, and it goes in combination with Final Countdown, since you have to pay 2,000 life points to activate Final Countdown. As soon as you activate Final Countdown, you're automatically in the range of Frozen Soul. Plus, if you don't do that, you can just use 2 Upstart Goblins, and then you're automatically behind them. So yeah, that is the normal deck. The side deck. I'm still deciding what to do about the side deck, because there are 3 specific decks that can hurt Final Countdown pretty badly. There's Burn decks, Negation decks, and Mill decks. A deck that will get rid of either your hand or the grid or your deck, because this deck does a pretty good job of milling itself out. I can't think of a way to stop the milling decks or the negation decks, but I know how to stop the burning decks somewhat. Right now, all I have really to stop it is 3 Hainwadas. Hainwadas, you can, during either player's turn, you can discard it to make any effect damage 0. There are other cards that I could get. Probably, I definitely want to get Des Wombat. I can look that up right now. Des Wombat. Awesome card. It's 3-star monster, 1600. As long as it's up in the field, any effect damage I take becomes 0. I definitely would need that in this deck, but I don't have any right now. And if anyone can help me think of a way to stop milling decks and hand control decks, that would be awesome. And then the only monster I use in my extra deck is number 83 Galaxy Queen, and I don't use it that much at all. 3 level 1 monsters. I detach a material, and monsters I can't control can't be destroyed until the end of my opponent's next turn. And the second effect doesn't really come into effect. All monsters get piercing damage, but this deck never attacks. It only does Final Countdown. So yeah, this is my Final Countdown deck. Let me know what you think. Add any suggestions of what I could do for my side deck. And yeah, the third deck I made was a Frognarch deck. That is a Monarch deck based around the Treeborn engine. I really enjoy Monarchs. I've used Monarchs my entire life, and they are just awesome. I love them to death. They're like my favorite monsters in all of Yu-Gi-Oh. But yeah, here we go. The monsters. I have run 3 Caius the Shadow Monarchs, the best Monarch they've ever made. When it's summoned, automatically banish 1 card, and if that card's a dark monster, inflict 1,000 points of damage. Awesome. You can banish any monster, banish any spell, banish any trap, and if you really want to go crazy and they have less than 1,000 life points, you can just have him banish himself, and since it inflicts the damage to your opponent, you can banish your own stuff and your opponent will take damage for it. Caius is just amazing. The second best Monarch they've ever made, in my opinion, is Rise Up. Rise of the Storm Monarch. When he's summoned, you automatically take 1 card and return it to the top of their deck. Not only does it get rid of, it can like bounce strong monsters away, any trap, any spell, but if it's a stupid card, like they can't really use it right now, it wastes a draw. It blocks up their draw power, so they'll just draw into the same card again, which is amazing. I use 1 Mobius, and I don't really want to use any other Monarchs besides that, because I don't want to get too crazy with the Monarchs. Summon, destroy up to 2 spell or traps. That's just awesome. Protect me. And as you notice, I don't use any trap cards in this deck, because if I leave any trap cards face down, it will mess up my Treeborn engine. I'll get to Treeborn in a second. I use 1 Gores, the Emissary of Darkness, just awesome card. If you have no cards, you can special summon if you take any damage. I would say I have not used its effect to deal with effect damage, but I've done it to deal from battle damage. It automatically gets special summoned, and you summon a token that with the same amount as the damage. Pretty awesome. Blackluster Soldier, just awesome card. I think it's just an amazing card. I do use Obelisk in this deck just for the lulz. 4,000 attack, 4,000 effect, cannot be targeted or just cannot be targeted by spells, traps, or card effects. Summon can't be negated. so it's just funny. The main monster I use again in this deck, I would say, is Light and Darkness Dragon. Light and Darkness Dragon is an amazing card. 2 tributes. It negates any spell, trap, or monster effect without question, even your own, so you have to be careful when you use this card. But, yeah, and every time it negates something, it loses 500 attack. So basically, it's just used as to get free damage into your opponent, and they have to pretty much use every card they have to get rid of it. And when it's destroyed, you get to select one monster in your grave and special summon it. Oh yeah, then you have to destroy all other monsters, other cards you control. But it's not really smart to control other cards while you have Light and Darkness Dragon. Like, I would not use Treeborn's effect because it would just get negated. I would not leave any spell cards in the field because I wouldn't be able to use them. It's just awesome. I run 2 of those. Dark Dust Spirit, awesome card in Treeborn. When it's summoned or flipped up, it destroys every face-up monster on the field besides it. And it, like Kinkabyo, it's a spirit monster, which means that it will go back to my hand at the end phase. But it destroys everything and can get free damage. It's awesome. 3 Battle Faders, explained in the last one. Now the other frog I use in the deck is Swap Frog. Discard a water monster to special summon him, so I could either discard another Swap Frog, or I could discard Mobius if I really needed to. When it's summoned, send a level 2 or lower water monster from my deck to the grave, which is awesome. I could either send a Treeborn, or I could send another Swap Frog to help get rid of cards in the deck. And I can return a monster I control in order to get another summon. So I could send the Swap Frog, and after I use his other effects, I could just bounce the Swap Frog back to my hand, or if he's on the field, bounce a Monarch back to my hand. I don't really use the other effect, like, you get to summon, it gives you the option to summon another frog. You don't have to. So you just bounce something and then stop right there. Then I use 1 Marshmallow in the deck. It's just Marshmallow, it's awesome. You know, Marshmallow. Yeah. 2 Treeborns. While it's during your standby phase. Yeah, during your standby phase, if you don't have any spell or traps, you can special summon it from your grave. You can only do this if you don't control another Treeborn. You can only have 1 Treeborn on the field at a time if you use his effects or whatever. And yeah, so basically this is the main engine of the deck. During my standby phase, I get him, tribute him for a Monarch, or if I have another card, tribute it for Light and Darkness. What the main combo I do is Treeborn, and then as soon as I summon Treeborn, activate Enemy Controller. I'll get to Enemy Controller in a minute. And it automatically gets you your opponent's monster and gets you your Treeborn back. Since it's still during the standby phase, you can bring back Treeborn again, even though you've tributed him for Enemy Controller, which is awesome. And then the last monster I use is Raikou. I use 3 of them. Raikou is an awesome card. Target a card, destroy it, mill top 3. Not only is he just awesome because of the milling, but he because of, well, the destruction, and he gives you another chance to get Treeborn in the grave. Plus, he's a light monster that I use to get out BLS, which is just awesome. Now for the spell cards. Dark Hole, staple. I use 3 Soul Exchanges, which are awesome. Tribute my opponent's stuff instead of mine. Can't attack if I do that. I tribute my opponent's monsters for Monarchs, tribute a monster I have and a monster they have for Light and Darkness, or if I want to get even funnier, I tribute 2 monsters I have and 1 of theirs to bring out Obelisk. It's just funny. 3 MSTs for field control, Heavy Storm field control, 1 for 1, send a monster from my hand. I explained this with the Infernities. I can use it to get out my Treeborn. It's just a nice card. 3 enemy controllers. I can either use it for defense, or I can use it in combination with Treeborn to take my opponent's stuff, which is just awesome. I have Pot of Avarice to recycle my Monarchs and stuff. Pretty much a staple for a Monarch deck. Foolish Burial to get Treeborn into the grave. That's pretty nice. And then Charge of the Light Brigade. Mill top 3, and then add a Light Sword to my hand. So I milled to 3 cards. One of those cards could be Treeborn, that'd be awesome. And then I add a Raikou to my hand, which is in itself awesome. And then I don't have that much when it comes to Xyz. I don't have that big of a collection of Xyz, so right now all I'm using is Gachi Gachi and number 25 Focus, a Force Focus, which is just awesome. I don't use it that much because I don't usually get 2 Monarchs out in the field at the same time, but you can target 1 level 5 or higher effect monster and negate its effects. But pretty much that only really works against people who don't use Xyz decks, because his effect does not work on Xyz since they don't have a level. But yeah, it's 2800, and it can stop big synchros. It's good against synchros, but that's pretty much it. And then Gachi Gachi is self-explanatory. So yeah, that's the Frognark deck. You have any suggestions? And then this is the deck I'm currently working on. It's a lockdown deck. It's not completely done yet. It has 40 cards in it, but it's still a work in progress. I'm still working on getting more lockdown stuff, but this is what I have at the moment. Again, I don't have that big of a collection of Xyz, so I'm just using what I can get my hands on. So don't mock me for what Xyz I use. So here we go. 1 Snowman Eater, flip face up, target a monster and face up monster, blow it up. Pretty nice, 1900 defense. 2 Marshmallows, explained them before, can't be destroyed in battle. Deal damage, pretty awesome. Deal burn damage, which is what this deck is pretty good at, is dealing burn damage while locking down. Pretty nice. 2 Lava Golems, amazing card, pretty much a must in any burn or lockdown deck. Tribute 2 of your opponent's monsters, special summon it to their field, they take 1,000 every turn, it's just awesome. Spirit Reaper, same as Marshmallow, can't be destroyed in battle, but if he's targeted by a spell or trap or effect, he automatically blows up. Which kind of sucks. Awesome lockdown card, Fossil Dyna, people call him Patchy, I'll just call him Patchy because it's quicker. Nobody can special summon while you have Patchy in the field, and if he's flipped up, you destroy all special summon monsters. So you just summon him when you have lockdown stuff. Your opponent can't summon anything, like they can't bring out their... It shuts down Dino Rabbit. They can't bring out their... They can't use Rescue Rabbit. They can't use They can't use Tour Guide, and they can't even bring out their Xyz for one. So that's just awesome. They can't bring out Battle Faders to protect themselves. They can't bring out Gores. They can't bring out anything. It's just awesome. I love it. I love Fossil Dyna. I have 1 Stealth Bird. I want more because Stealth Bird's awesome. When you flip someone, they take 1,000, and then you can flip it back down. It's just 1,000 points of damage every turn. I run a Sandgan to get Fossil Dyna, Marshmallow, Snowman Eater, Stealth Bird, any of those to my hand, or anything else in the deck. He's pretty much a staple. I run 1 Doom Caliber. Doom Caliber's awesome, 1900 attack, and he can negate any effect. But the problem is it's not optional. He has to negate any monster effect. The first one that comes out after he's summoned, which is kind of bad, but he's still pretty nice. I run 1 Grave Squirmer. If he's destroyed by battle, I destroy 1 card in the field. Nicer than Snowman Eater because he can destroy any card. It doesn't just have to be a face-up monster. Now, this monster I want a 3rd one of because it's amazing. Psyblocker. Once per turn, you name off 1 card, and the opponent neither can use that card nor use any of its effects until the end of their next turn. So if you're, say, let's see... If they don't have any cards, and you know they have like a Battle Fader hand, you're going to say, I choose Battle Fader. Boom. They cannot use Battle Fader on you anymore. Or if you're worried about them getting a Heavy Storm, boom, you say Heavy Storm. They can't use it anymore. Dark Hole, boom, they can't use Dark Hole. It's just awesome. Or if they have like, say, what I did once was I was facing off against Dark Worlds. No, it was, what was it called? It was the new Spellbook deck. Yeah, the Spellbooks. And I shut down their field spell. And it couldn't do anything because I just kept shutting down their field spell. And they couldn't use their field spell's effects, which is awesome. Now, DD Assailant, I just have in there just because if he's destroyed, both him and the monster that killed him are banished. It's pretty awesome. Now, another awesome monster, King Tiger Wangu. It's just awesome. If any monster that's normal summon or special summon with 1400 or less, it automatically blows up. That's just awesome. Shuts down Dino Rabbit, shuts down Insectors, shuts down pretty much all those little spamming decks. It shuts down my Infernities, except for Infernity Archfiend, which is really annoying. But yeah, I use 1 Effect Veiler. I could get more, but I can't really get more right now. Discard it, negate an effect for the turn. It's just awesome. Then I have 1 Thunder King. You can't add cards to your hand except by drawing them, so your opponent cannot search for anything. And neither can you, so like it shuts down Sandgan, unfortunately. But whatever. And if your opponent special summons, you can tribute it to negate the special summon. So you can get rid of Xyz or anything like that. So that goes for the monsters. Now for the spell cards, Monster Reborn staple, Heavy Storm staple, I use 2 Forbidden Lances to protect my monsters from any spells or traps. And since I'm not going to be attacking that much, I could attack a little bit, but just for the turn, it protects them from anything. So if they try to use Dark Hole or use Forbidden Lance, they can't die. Pretty awesome. Book of Moon, staple. 2 MSTs I use, staples. I use 2 swords for more protection. Yeah, as I said, this deck is just a work in progress, so right now the best stuff I have is just the spells and traps I have to stop my opponents and my monsters' effects. 1 enemy controller, explained. 2 creature swaps. Each player chooses 1 monster, and then you swap they swap places. So it gets around cards that say this card cannot be targeted by your opponent's effect because your opponent's not choosing the monster. You are, which means it gets around that. Plus, you give them a really weak monster, and if they only have one really good monster, they have to give it to you, and it's permanent. They don't get it back, which is awesome. So Creature Swap's just an amazing card. Then I have 1 level limit. I could get to... Don't know where my second one is, though. It's just more lockdown. Level 4s or higher can't switch to defense. Then for traps, I have 2 Bottomless Trap Holes. This card's awesome. Self-explanatory. 1 Threatening Roar. A Solemn Judgment staple. Mirror Force staple. I have 1 Dimensional Prison. I would use more if I could get my hands on more. These cards are not that easy to get your hands on. And I use 1 Torrential Tribute, just in case, and then I have a Compulse, just because, and then I use Divine Wrath. Divine Wrath is nice. Discard a card to negate any effect. It's a counter trap, so it can pretty much negate around everything. It's just awesome. That's for the deck. This is the first deck where I've actually decided to use a large side deck. And I have all these cards in real life, and hopefully I am well-rounded. I have Smash and Ground, just awesome card. Shadow Imprisoning Mirror to shut down dark monsters, shut down Insectors, shut down all of those. Pretty nice. Dimensional Fissure, shut down any decks that need monsters in the grave. Same thing with Macrocosmos, to shut down. My deck isn't really hurt by Banish. The only card it has to bring back stuff from the grave is Monster Reborn, and I can easily side that out. It's just awesome, and my deck isn't really hurt by it. I use 1 Mind Control. Obviously, it's just Mind Control. Mind Crush to control the hand. Say they add... And for example, I'm going off of Dino Rabbit as an example. If they add, let's say, Rescue Rabbit. Or if you know they use a lot of Battle Faders, a Swift Scarecrow, you could say, oh, I want to get rid of all of your Battle Faders in your hand. Or I want to get rid of all the Swift Scarecrows, or I want to get rid of all the Rescue Rabbits, or anything. All of those, they automatically go to the grave. And if they're not in the hand, you have to discard, which is the only deck. I have 1 Dark Bribe, more spell and trap protection. Forbidden Chalice, it's pretty much the same thing as Effect Veiler. The opponent gains forward attack, and their effect is negated for the turn, which is nice. DD Crow, just like Fissure and Cosmos, just used to banish stuff from your opponent's grave. This is a card I don't use that much. Vanity's Emptiness. It keeps from special summoning, but it gets destroyed bleh. Sorry, I'm a little slow right now. No one can special summon, but it gets destroyed if any card is sent from the deck or field to the grave, which kind of sucks. I'm still looking for a better card to prevent special summoning. So if you have any suggestions, let me know. Consecrated Light. This is an awesome card. Just used to shut down cards that use dark decks. Yeah, like Insectors or my Infernities, for one, get shut down by cards like this. And yeah, I use Dark Trap Hole. If your opponent special summons 2 or more monsters, send them all to the grave. Then it sends all the monsters with the same name from the deck to the hand and deck to the grave. So if, say, I'm going to go back to Dino Rabbit. They send away Rescue Rabbit, bring out 2 dinosaurs, play Dark Trap Hole, both of them go to the grave, and then the third one from the deck goes to the grave, which is awesome. And a really awesome card, Chain Disappearance. This card is awesome. If your opponent summons a monster with 1,000 attack or less, it's automatically banished, and then they have to banish all cards with the same name from the hand of the deck. I'm going to go back to Dino Rabbit, they summon Rescue Rabbit, use this, all 3 rabbits get banished, which is awesome. I love it. And then I just have another Compulse in there. And I go to my crappy side deck, which I usually don't end up using. I have 2 Utopias, 2 String Djinns. String Djinn doubles in attack, so he's pretty much just to become a 3,000. Percussion Djinn, it makes all Djinn monsters gain 500, so he goes up to 22, and he can increase this Djinn, whatever. And a Leviathan Dragon, pretty much a staple in Xyz thing. So yeah, that's all 4 of my decks, in my Infernity deck, Final Countdown deck, Frognark deck, and Lockdown deck. If you have any suggestions, let me know, and it would just be awesome. Alright, see you guys.